Processing output.
Attention viewers, BigJackFilms is unavailable at the moment due to missing in action. But he has left a recording before his absence for you to enjoy.
The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. Beast Wars Transformers is owned by Hasbro Incorporated, Mainframe Entertainment, BLT Productions, Claster Television, YTV, Takara Tomy Company, Alliance Atlantis Communications, Larry Titillio, and Bob Forward. Please support the official release. Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome back to the King Kong Reviews. Let's talk about the Transformers. No, seriously, I actually want to talk about this franchise. Beginning as a Japanese imported toy line distributed by Hasbro in the 80s, the Transformers was a simple concept of robots that transformed into vehicles and other forms. The toys were a huge hit in the mid-80s, and spun immediately into an even more successful cartoon series following the adventures of the Autobots led by Optimus Prime against a waging war with the evil Decepticons led by Megatron. What followed was a 40-year franchise from cartoons, comics, video games, and more toys that have been delighting generations of playtime for children of all ages, and even one of the most financially successful film franchises of all time. With the unfortunate helm being led by Michael Bay. While I do enjoy the 1986 film with Orson Welles as Unicron,
the French champagne.
I do give the first Bayformers a pass for being more of a Steven Spielberg-based film than Bay's. And to be honest, it's a pretty kick-ass action flick of the mid-2000s. But there's two questions regarding this franchise when it comes to this particular episode. I am a fan of the Transformers, but what the hell does this have to do with King Kong? Well, all the answers and more can be revealed with the kick-ass 90s series simply known as Beast Wars. This was my generation's Transformers, folks. While G1 and to some extent G2 were past my time, I loved the hell out of Beast Wars as my first introduction to the iconic franchise. Now, first and foremost, the toys were awesome, and I still own a few of them in fantastic condition. But the show itself was an epic prehistoric rumble, taking the concept of robots in disguise but giving it a new twist, with turning them from vehicles and weapons into animals and dinosaurs in a beastly battle royale. Now, the dinosaur part was enough to draw my attention, but where do the King Kong elements come into play in this particular review? Well, my opinion mostly states from the first two episodes of this iconic series, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. So, let's roll out the tape and take a look at Beast Wars. The first thing I have to mention, though, is of course, the goddamn theme song. It is full of 90s rock attire as well as that kick-ass jungle beat. Like a combination of heavy metal and the score to Predator. It's just fucking awesome.
Beast Wars! Beast Wars!
The series begins, like most Kong-centric tales do, in space! Yeah, don't worry folks, I'll get to Space Kong some other time. This idea was brought up by Cooper? What the fuck? As a black hole opens with two space shuttles in a cybernetic Star Wars with the descendants of the Autobots, known as the Maximals, and the Decepticons, known as the Predacons. Try saying that 3 times fast. The two ships crash in an unknown planet that contains an overabundance of the powered crystals known as Energon, which if exposed for too long can cause these alien robots significant damage to their life forms.
I want you to redesign the circuitry and shield it.
So, to create basically a cybernetic sunscreen, the robots create alternate forms based on the strongest local creatures on the planet, taking the forms of predatory African animals to the prehistoric awesomeness of the dinosaurs. The Maximals, led by Optimus Primal, voiced by Gary Chalk, set up camp with his comrades including Cheetor, voiced by Ian James Corlett, Rhinox, voiced by Richard Newman, and Rat Trap, voiced by the Canadian Mel Blanc, Scott McNeil. But on the other side of things is a frustrated Dinobot, voiced again by Scott McNeil. Yeah, he does a ton of voices on the show, as he tries to form a mutiny against the tyrannical Rex Megatron, voiced by Lord Sesshomaru himself, David Kaye.
Do as you see fit.
But as Cheetor prowls through the area, he stumbles across a buzzing Waspinator, as the first battle begins. After a quick retreat saving Cheetor, the Maximals are cornered at the base by the banished Dinobot, and Optimus takes on a challenge to a duel with the compromised Carnivore.
You're gonna have trouble with the Chief.
Part 2 opens with a pretty impressive sword fight between the two on the bridge until the Predacons attack with their firepower, flying past the group and hitting the side of a massive mountain containing a large portion of the raw Energon crystal as Megatron and his minions take off to retrieve it and use its power to conquer the planet. So of course, the Maximals must follow suit to stop Megatron as the two forces begin the long-running series of adventures and battles in the now declared Beast Wars. Or Beasties for Canadian audiences for some stupid reason. That was due to the fact that Canadian censorship protocols didn't allow the word war in titles. Which makes no sense, given the majority of the uncut violent action scenes in the show were presented in the Canadian version, whereas the American version was censored.
Gunpowder is something new in their lives, huh?
Yeah, they're terrified.
Now, as a start to this much-loved series, how does the first 2 episodes hold up today? Well, to be honest, I was there when these 2 episodes aired back in 1996, and have remained some of the most iconic moments, not just for Beast Wars itself, but for the entire franchise. This was a show I got hooked on right away in the mid-90s, watching the likes of Sailor Moon, Rugrats, and Power Rangers, among others, on the Canadian television network for kids, YTV. And for those in America, YTV was pretty much the Canadian Nickelodeon, since a lot of the shows there got ported over to this particular network. But Beast Wars was one of my favorite shows to watch as a kid, containing a ton of action-packed adventures, tons of lessons about teamwork and the value of friendships, and of course some of the best action set pieces on kids' TV, and being one of the first TV series to utilize a new form of computer animation. Remember, this was only 3 years after Jurassic Park hit the scene, which the dino craze was one of the reasons why this show caught my interest, especially after Power Rangers brought on the concept of giant robot dinosaurs. In fact, Beast Wars was so popular with kids in the 90s, on rival with G1, that they had a Kong-size Optimus Primal float at the Toronto Santa Claus Parade. I swear to God on Cooper's leftover pipe, I wasn't smoking anything! Roll the tape!
This is Optimus Primal, one of the stars of the YTV show Beasties.
Where the hell is this thing? How do you hide this for 25 years? I want this thing in my goddamn house. In fact, I want the Megatron and Cheetor cosplay mascot suits on top of that float. Somebody tell me where this is. I popped out of a womb in Toronto and lived here for 30 years, and I can never find this goddamn Optimus Primal King Kong-sized float. I fucking want it! I fucking want it! Don't care how I want it now. Don't care how I want it now.
She was a bad egg.
But it was only the second CGI show to be released by the Canadian company Mainframe Entertainment, which was named after the city in their first breakthrough series, Reboot. Another awesome show I remember as a kid.
I come from the net, through systems, peoples, and cities, to this place, Mainframe.
God, does that intro take me back. Even after their work on the Transformers franchise, Mainframe Entertainment also went on to produce Shouter Raiders and the direct-to-video Barbie movies with Sanga voice actress Kelly Sheridan as Barbie?
My poor nutcracker.
Don't worry, Clara. I'm just wood. Remember?
Man, talk about a downgrade right there.
Oh man, this is ridiculous!
But back to Beast Wars. The show was an instant attention grabber for me, mostly for the dinosaur aspects after Jurassic Park. Hell, I think even the showrunners knew it, with some of the creature designs with Dinobot, for example, looking very similar to the great Velociraptor Stan Winston designed in Jurassic Park, and Megatron's T-Rex looking a lot like Barney? Maybe it was to show that giant purple dinosaurs can actually kill you rather than hug you.
Now, where's the fun in that?
But speaking of which, the characters are awesome and on equal terms to the previous G1 characters, and each one is memorable and have great moments to shine. My personal favorites outside of Optimus Primal have to go to Dinobot and Rat Trap. From the start of the first 2 episodes, these guys had a friendly but intimidating rivalry, especially since none of the Maximals aren't quick to trust their new ally with Dinobot.
Yeah, I don't trust Predacons.
But over time, the two eventually settle their discriminated rivalry and become best friends and brothers-in-arms against the Predacons. Hell, it even leads to one of the most heart-crushing episodes in kids' TV, which...
Tell my tale to those who ask. The rest is silence.
Oof, I remember that killing me as a kid. Way more so than the death of Optimus in G1. Yeah, I know I said it, folks, but remember, I didn't grow up with G1.
Was Benito does not understand.
Hell, I even love the character of Rhinox, and comparing these characters to the original series, he was pretty much the Ratchet for this one.
The boy's pheromone level suggests he wants to mate with the female.
Hey, Ratchet, don't make it personal, buddy. Even Cheetor is more of a combination of Hot Rod and Bumblebee. But of course, there's the sinister Predacons, and these guys were not only intimidating, but also kinda spooky. A lot of them took the forms of bugs and insects, with the likes of Waspinator, Tarantulas, and Scorponok. While Tarantulas I thought was the scariest, since spiders and bees with the likes of Waspinator and so on aren't really my thing, my personal favorite of these creepy crawlers has to go to the bumbling Scorponok. Mostly for his design with his claws containing missiles in his robot form, from which it alone made a fun feature in the toys. I think out of all the Predacons, he had the more staying power since he made appearances in later Transformers events, such as the anime Energon, and even being a main action set piece in the first Bay movie. Which did kinda give me hope that someday we would actually get a Beast Wars movie. In fact, that seems to be the case right now with the next Transformers film. But the best 3 for me have to go to the likes of Optimus, Megatron, and his flyby air support Pterosaur. I'll start with the latter with Pterosaur because he doesn't get much love in the series since a lot of people pretty much compare him to Starscream in the original series.
Air Commander Starscream of the Decepticon Battle Fleet!
But to be honest, I think that was the point. But given he's a Pteranodon, he gets extra points for me, kinda reminding me of Rodan in his red color scheme. But when it comes to the King Kong elements, the 2 leads are the ones who steal the show. Starting with Optimus Primal, who of course takes the form of a silverback gorilla, which in the original toy line wasn't his first form actually, taking on the form of a bat of all things. Hell, Megatron was originally a crocodile, which is a much better alternative, but I prefer the T-Rex personally. But of course, when the toys first launched, when a show was a hit, a lot of kids, including myself, were confused by why the 2 lead robots were in these alternate forms. So the pressure eventually got to Kenner. Yeah, they had the toy line before Hasbro bought them out, and they later put out the characters in their more show-accurate form in the toys. Hell, to this day, the toys still look fantastic displayed on my shelf. They're even still around at Walmart for a reissue, so I would actually recommend grabbing them while you have the chance, guys. I kept my original toys in pretty decent condition after all these years, and most of the time, I kept them in their beast mode because, well, putting them together is a bit of a pain in the ass. Hell, you kids are lucky nowadays given you have automatically transforming toys. Seriously, what the hell? How come I didn't have these as a kid? And why are they so goddamn expensive?
Well, that's just Prime.
But back to Optimus, the character is a nice follow-up to the original Optimus, voiced by Kong76 himself, Peter Cullen. And Gary Chalk is toe-to-toe with Peter in the role. Gary's Optimus feels a bit more younger and more in line with the mission at hand, not really taking any shits from his team.
That's an order, Rat Trap!
Yeah? And you can just kiss my skid plate, fearless leader!
I guess you could say he's a bit of a party pooper and suffering from what I call Leonardo Leader Syndrome. But when Optimus has his moments, it's actually quite charming. But when he's in battle, he commands a massive stature in his presence, especially fighting Megatron, which let's finally talk about.
Yes!
Now, this might be a bit controversial, and it's gonna be a tough one for a lot of Transformers fans, cause as much as I like the original G1 Megatron in both shows and movies, especially with his voice provided by the legendary Frank Welker,
I still function!
David K to me will always be the definitive Megatron.
Yes!
From his terrifying T-Rex form to his elegant voice, Megatron is a dino force to be reckoned with, giving the tyrant lizard a kingly voice and a gentlemantic stature, reminding me of the likes of Captain James Hook or even Ratigan to some extent. Because when this guy is pissed, he'll show his ultimate bad side with no mercy or regret. Not to mention his constant yes to show he means business and a sense of sadistic pleasure when putting pain upon his enemies.
Yes, 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 yes.
God, eat your heart out, Dr. Robotnik from Sonic Sat AM. This guy is a raging metallic boner of self-pleasure.
The Maximals, and then the galaxy, will be ours to conquer.
God damn it, that's a cool-ass villain, and only David Kaye can pull off a role like that.
I may have PTSD, but that is a Maximal.
Especially with his resume voicing some iconic villains from anime and even in Kong the Animated Series as Professor Ramon de la Porta.
I never allowed myself to believe it could be true.
I might actually talk about that series a little more later on down the line this year.
Well, must be nice having the world handed to you.
Best part is seeing the envy in some people's faces.
This, of course, brings us to the many references of Kong in this show. Well, outside of the obvious tensions of Optimus and Megatron mirroring the two kings of Skull Island, there are a few nods to the King Kong franchise, mostly in its visual aspects from creature designs and action scenes. The majority of forms the Predacons take are mirror images of the predatory creatures on Skull Island, from the Pteranodon that attacks Fay Ray with Pterosaur, to Tarantulas and Scorponok mirroring the lost creatures of the Spider Pit scene. Hell, some of the scenes are quite similar in the first two episodes, from the chasm looking like the log scene, to the scaling of the Energon Mountain resembling the climb to Kong's lair. Even later in the show, going as far as the disastrous Beast Machines, there were more New York-based homages to Kong. However, easily the most Kong-driven moment the show brought was the second episode with the titanic beast war between the two factions upon the mountain of crystallized Energon.
Across the galaxy, it has come to this, Optimus Primal.
I'd say that's prime.
This moment is awesome. Not just for the Kong moments, but the primal theme of the show as a whole, and what makes it stand on its own in the Transformers franchise. This isn't just guns and machines ablaze and sparks and firepower, but the primordial battle of the dominant animals of the planet as a pure force of nature and survival of the fittest. The shots are wonderfully executed, like the standoff, which stimulates a classic spaghetti western film. And from the flutacious nature-like music to the rock-out battle themes, the brawl brings out the best of the show's action set pieces, with each Maximal and Predacon fighting only to the established limits of their animal form.
The Energon fields would destroy us as robots in less than a minute.
And I will handle Optimus personally.
But when it comes to iconic Kong homages, the classic battle of good and evil between Optimus Primal and Megatron is a mirror image of Kong's mighty battle with the T-Rex, and it is awesome!
Admit defeat, Maximal. The Energon shall be ours.
The fight is brutal, creative, and not only homages the 1933 battle, but also takes the legs of the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, all leading up to the fanatic explosion with Megatron firing a cheap shot to win against Optimus, and the entire mountain goes up in oblivion. A pinnacle start to a kick-ass series. So do these two episodes hold up today? Well, in my opinion, given the impact it's had on the franchise and the turbo boost of what we have now, I would actually say absolutely. But overall, Beast Wars is a great show and easily my favorite era of the Transformers franchise. It introduced me to the series and made me very much a casual fan. While the later films have their ups and downs, especially with the recent crossover on the Netflix series, which, while the Maximals and Predacons look better than ever, lack the original voice actors.
It is you, isn't it? Yes!
Not to mention, a Beast Wars movie is now finally in the works. It honestly shows that this era has a lasting impact, with its amazing characters, 90s animation and music, and the many nods to Kong and other monster movies. This review may not be much in terms of an in-depth retrospective, but it does take the Transformers off the checklist of reviewing certain franchises, and these 2 episodes of Beast Wars come in at a kick-ass 9.6 out of 10. If you're new to the Transformers and haven't seen Beast Wars, this is a good spot to start you off if you want to check it out. Because quite frankly, it's more than meets the eye with these robots in disguise. So there's the first 2 episodes of Beast Wars, my overall opinion on the show, and the Transformers franchise in general. While having a few parody corners and homages to the King Kong movies actually manages to stand on its own. And don't worry, I've got plenty of parodies to work with on this show for the next few years. But of course I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Beast Wars and the Transformers franchise in general? Let me know in the comments section below. So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms, signing off for now. Carl, access and activate contact with our allies in fictional dimension TFG-1.
On it, dude. Entering the library now.
Thanks.
Accessing contact with FD code TFG-1.
On screen.
Acknowledged. Call transmission activated.
Autobot local to base. This is Optimus Prime reporting in.
Good evening, old friend. It's been a while since we crossed paths, though I wouldn't reach out to you if it wasn't for some great importance.
I am most likely aware of what it could be. Problems already.
Indeed. Peace times have been unfortunately delayed. The Dark One's power has possibly shown itself. I've already had a few attacks come on me from Cobra.
If Cobra is showing its snakes in the grass, then the Decepticons are not too far behind. As well as their leader, Megatron.
Perhaps, which is why we need to prepare for any potential threats. I've almost succumbed to it myself. Thankfully, I was well kept under the care of some much-needed friends at a local academy. Do you have any ideas or thoughts of what we could do, Optimus?
Is there any way we can contact allies from other parts?
The FDT energy fields are a dead giveaway of our position. Comlinks will not reach to too many with high-tech weapons.
What of any allies in more present dimensions?
That too is impossible without other enemies discovering our locals on laser sites. The last thing we need is another plot hole or entity entering our galaxy. Lord knows we don't even need the Terracons finding out.
Is there anything perhaps even primitive that might hold the line of defense? There is no telling when we can make landing to support your cause, Jack. You must prepare for possible combat with whatever you can obtain.
Perhaps there is. But stay in contact, Prime. The time may come when we may need your allies once again.
We wait for your return contact, old friend. Autobots, over and out.
Curl, send word to our allies in the Victorian era.
Why there, my dude?
Let's just say, the fox is out of the bag.